And there is, under the radar here, kind of a sneak attack on something I'm sure sacred to Pat Buchanan. Here is Defense Secretary Bob Gates essentially acting as his own improvised explosive device, going to the Pentagon and taking really canceling all of these modern, or many of the modern exotic weapon systems. The military-industrial complex is going to have a cardiac arrest. Only a Republican Secretary of Defense could do this. So there are immense changes.
Bob Woodward had brought up before the military cuts that the Republican Secretary of Defense is proposing. Do you support those cuts?
I think that this change in funding by the Secretary of Defense is absolutely something that will improve our military for two major reasons. He's actually going to terminate or suspend those types of platforms, those instruments of war that were intended primarily for the Cold War. And second, he's moving the funding over into what is absolutely critical. That is the capability to know where the adversary is. Take the F-22. 187 of them. There's only one scenario when you look out there in the Western Pacific that we would need this all-aspect stealth fighter for. Then you stop and you say, how many do you need? You probably need less than 187. Then you say, let's move that funding into an unmanned air vehicle, as the Secretary has said, that could have been out there in the Gulf of Aden over this past year, loitering 24 hours, looking down, and seeing hundreds of square miles where a pirate might have boarded a ship, like happened yesterday, and been able to relay it to a helicopter or to a naval vessel elsewhere. This transformation is something Mr. Rumsfeld, actually, when I was in the Navy, heading the defense review under him, wanted to move us towards. We're finally getting there.
How about the Navy? Because Gates has proposed cutting these exotic new destroyers that cost, what, $1.5 billion each? Do you agree with that?
Yes, this DDG 1000, actually the first three of them will cost $5 billion apiece. What he's now going to do is procure...
$5 billion apiece?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
The initial cost of them 5 years ago was $1.2 billion. Now, what we're going to move to is procuring more DDG 51s. Why? If you noticed, he said 6 of them are going to have software upgrades to handle ballistic missile defense. We already have about 15 out there to do that. Why? Two primary reasons. Again, in the Western Pacific, and I sat down with the CIA to confirm, there is now the potential near-term capability that the DDG 1000 could not address to have a ballistic missile aimed towards an aircraft carrier. So we're now going to have upwards of 80, because we already have about 75 of them, of DDG 51s upgraded to handle it. Second is what we can now do is place these ballistic missile defense ships wide around the world, including in the Eastern Mediterranean, to handle a rogue threat from Iran if that were to happen. We can actually have a pretty seminal capability of doing that today. What he said is sit back, look at the whole force. Do I have a sunk investment in Aegis cruisers, ships that are already out there, that I can enhance a bit rather than spending $5 billion per a new platform? What a nice change.
What do you expect in terms of reaction, Democrat and Republican? Because there's an enormous number of districts. They spread all the contracts around, and there's a lot of rice bowls that are going to be broken.
That's the problem. Let's be upfront about it. People tend to go to the Armed Services Committees because they have districts that happen to have defense industries in them. One of them is going to affect my district, CSAR, the Combat Search and Rescue platform for the future, to go in and get a downed airman such as O'Grady, remember, during the Bosnia conflict. But what he said is, I don't want to purchase a single service, Air Force only platform. Let's sit back and get a multi-service capability to do it. That's the right thing to do, and I'm going to support that. However, I know, and you've already heard, that whether it's the F-22 or whether the C-17, this is where the fight will be. Industry and the House Armed Services Committee, and on the Senate side with the appropriations, is the fight's going to be tough battle. And it's a shame. If there's a transformation needed, it's now.